Kevin Stefanski didn't hesitate, didn't soften the blow, and definitely didn't wait for the noise to die down. Because the moment this decision leaked, it sent a shockwave through the entire NFL landscape. How does a quarterback tied to $180 million go from franchise cornerstone to expendable almost overnight? And more importantly, what does this say about where the Falcons and the league are really headed next? This isn't just another veteran quarterback shuffle. This is a full-scale organizational reset disguised as a roster move, and the implications stretch far beyond Atlanta. Within seconds of the report surfacing, front offices started recalculating, locker rooms started whispering, and fans started asking the uncomfortable question no one wanted to confront just months ago. Was Kirk Cousins ever truly the long-term answer? Or was this always going to end exactly like this? Here's why this story matters to you. What the Falcons are about to do could redefine how teams treat aging star quarterbacks, massive guaranteed contracts, and the illusion of stability in today's NFL. And by the time this video ends, you're going to see why Kevin Stefanski's apparent backpedal might actually be the most honest football decision made all season. The Falcons didn't miss the playoffs by accident. That 8-9 finish wasn't bad luck. And it wasn't just injuries or scheduling quirks. It was the slow realization that the vision they sold themselves wasn't aligning with reality on the field. Every team talks about continuity, culture, and trust. But the moment those buzzwords start costing games, coaches are forced to choose between loyalty and survival. Kirk Cousins was supposed to be the stabilizer, the proven veteran, the quarterback who would raise the floor, protect the offense from chaos, and guide a talented roster into consistent contention. That was the pitch. That was the justification for the contract. And that was the narrative sold to fans who were desperate for relevance. But football doesn't care about narratives. It cares about results, leverage, and timing. And timing is everything here. When Kevin Stefanski approved modifications to Cousins' contract, it felt like reassurance. A public signal that the organization was committed, that the quarterback room wasn't in flux, and that any noise about change was premature. On the surface, it looked like confidence. Underneath, it was caution, because once the season ended, once the Falcons stared at that 8-9 record without excuses left to hide behind, the tone shifted. Coaches don't talk openly about change unless they've already accepted that something fundamental is broken. And the first domino was always going to be the quarterback. Insider reports didn't take long to surface. Dov Kleiman's post hit social media like a siren. Falcons veteran quarterback Kirk Cousins is expected to be released by the team. 38 years old, heading into his 15th season. And suddenly, a player once viewed as untouchable became a name teams could casually discuss acquiring. That doesn't happen unless the organization has emotionally moved on. Let's be clear about something. This isn't a football decision made in isolation. This is an admission that the Falcons miscalculated their competitive window. An admission that the margin between being almost good enough and actually dangerous is far thinner than front offices like to admit. And an admission that sunk costs mean nothing when your job security is on the line. Kevin Stefanski understands that better than most. Coaches don't get infinite patience. They get results, or they get replaced. So when people frame this as Stefanski giving up on Cousins, they're missing the deeper truth. This is Stefanski choosing himself, his vision, and his timeline over a contract that no longer fits the direction of the team. And here's the part no one wants to say out loud. Kirk Cousins didn't completely fail. He just didn't elevate. In today's NFL, that distinction matters. You can survive with solid quarterback play in the regular season. You can flirt with contention. You can stay relevant on Sundays. But you cannot justify elite money for average outcomes forever. The league has moved on from that model. Look around. Teams are either riding the rookie quarterback wave or betting on truly transformational stars. The middle class of quarterbacks is shrinking, and contracts like Cousins are becoming pressure points instead of safety nets. Atlanta felt that pressure every single week. When the offense stalled, it wasn't catastrophic enough to justify panic, but it was never explosive enough to inspire confidence. Drives ended just short. Games slipped away quietly. Losses piled up without drama, which might be the most dangerous place for a team to live. That's how you end up 8-9. Not terrible, not hopeful, just stuck. And stuck is the one thing NFL organizations fear more than failure. Releasing Cousins isn't about punting on experience. It's about regaining flexibility, financial flexibility, strategic flexibility, psychological flexibility. Once a locker room senses that a quarterback is no longer untouchable, everything changes. Young players stop waiting, coaches stop tiptoeing, and the front office stops pretending. Now let's talk about the age factor, because it matters more than anyone wants to admit. 38 isn't ancient by NFL standards anymore, but it's also not a number you ignore when planning multiple seasons ahead. Every throw gets evaluated differently. Every missed read carries more weight, and every injury scare feels amplified. The Falcons aren't rebuilding from the ground up. They're recalibrating, and that means they need a quarterback timeline that aligns with the rest of the roster. Cousins simply doesn't fit that equation anymore. What makes this move so fascinating is that it isn't a total condemnation of his value. In fact, multiple teams are expected to make a move for him almost immediately. That tells you everything you need to know. Cousins isn't washed. He's just miscast. There are franchises right now that don't need a savior. They need a stabilizer, a bridge, a veteran who can manage games, mentor younger players, and keep a season from spiraling. In that context, Cousins makes sense. In Atlanta's context, he became a ceiling, and ceilings are dangerous when expectations are rising. Kevin Stefanski backpedaling on an official roster decision isn't weakness. It's realism. Coaches evolve. Circumstances change. And clinging to yesterday's plan is the fastest way to lose tomorrow's locker room. This is where the story gets even more interesting, because releasing Cousins isn't just about who leaves. It's about who comes next. The Falcons now control the narrative. They can chase upside. They can draft. They can trade. They can reset their offensive identity without constantly accounting for a quarterback who needs everything tailored to maximize what he has left. That freedom is intoxicating for a coaching staff. And don't underestimate the message this sends to the rest of the roster. No one is immune. No contract guarantees comfort. Performance always wins eventually. That's a powerful culture statement, whether fans realize it or not. Now zoom out for a moment, because this decision is part of a much bigger trend across the league. Teams are no longer afraid of admitting mistakes. The cap is flexible. Public backlash is temporary. But wasting seasons is unforgivable. The Falcons chose not to waste another year pretending. That's why this story has executives paying attention. If a quarterback tied to $180 million can be moved on from this decisively, no deal is sacred anymore. And that changes negotiations, leverage, and long-term planning league-wide. For Kirk Cousins, this isn't an ending. It's a pivot. He'll land somewhere. He'll start games. He'll probably win some of them. But the era of building around him is over, and deep down, everyone involved knows it. For Kevin Stefanski, this is a line in the sand, a declaration that he's not going to be defined by a single contract decision. He's choosing adaptability over attachment, and in today's NFL, that might be the most important skill a head coach can have. Here's the question that really matters now. Was this inevitable from the moment Cousins signed that deal? Or did the Falcons miss a chance to make it work? That's the debate fans are going to have for years. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the smartest move isn't fixing the problem. It's admitting the solution was wrong. And that's exactly what this feels like. So now the Falcons move forward, lighter, freer, and exposed. The safety net is gone. The expectations are clearer. And the pressure is fully on Kevin Stefanski to prove that this wasn't just a retreat, but a recalibration towards something better. Because if the next move doesn't hit, there won't be another contract to blame. And that's why this decision matters far more than a simple roster update. Before we see how this plays out, I want to hear from you. Was moving on from Kirk Cousins the right call? Or did the Falcons give up too soon on a quarterback who still had more to give? Drop your take in the comments, because this conversation is just getting started.